Patriots Pulse Preview Show. I'm John Serenitas, and I'm joined by my partner, John Sapachetti. John, great to see you as always, my friend. How are you on this beautiful Sunday morning?
This is awesome. First week of October. It's like 80 degrees out. Patriots are playing tonight. We can watch some of the football throughout the afternoon or go do something else to enjoy the day. But yeah, looking forward to it. I think it's going to be an interesting game tonight.
Yeah, I agree. It is great to see that it's 80 degrees. First full weekend in October. I mean, for me, if I had my druthers, it would be summer year-round. I hate the other seasons, specifically the fall and the winter. I'm a spring-summer guy, so this is fantastic. I was hoping to sneak in a beach day before the game, but got too much to do, Sap. Doesn't look like it's going to happen. And, of course, as you mentioned, Patriots are playing tonight in Buffalo against Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. Patriots enter this game at 2-2. Buffalo, who has played 3 of their first 4 home games at home, enters this game undefeated at 4-0. Certainly up until this point, John, the Bills have looked like the best team in the AFC. Part of that is the Kansas City Chiefs have struggled. The Baltimore Ravens are a train wreck. They're struggling right now. Lamar Jackson is out for today's game for them. So it appears, if you're a Buffalo Bills fan, and of course this is their final season playing at Highmark Stadium, it appears if you're a Buffalo Bills fan, there looks to be a clear path to potentially getting to a Super Bowl here. Again, you can never count out the Kansas City Chiefs. They've been the standard in the AFC the last 6 years. But beyond that, when you look at the landscape in the AFC East, Buffalo's won 6 straight AFC East titles. I mean, the Jets are the Jets. They're a mess. They're 0-4. Miami has won a couple of games, but they're not very good, and they just lost Tyreek Hill. Patriots are still a mystery, though, and I kind of feel like at 2-2, they're starting to play some really good football. In many ways, this is a litmus test game, not only for them, but for Buffalo as well, because the way it's setting up right now, Buffalo should run away with this division. Even if the Patriots were to upset them tonight, I still think that they should probably win this division by a minimum of 4 games. But for the Patriots and the Patriot perspective, John, this is the ultimate litmus test in many ways, because we're going to find out a lot about this football team tonight.
I think so, because this is the best opponent they've played by far. And things are setting up really well for the Buffalo Bills this year. They're going to dominate this division in theory. And also among other AFC contenders, as we've seen, Kansas City got off to that slow start, seem to be, taking care of business now. But you really don't know how good an offense is when they put up 37 points against Baltimore, because it seems like everybody's putting up 37-plus points against the Baltimore Ravens. Now you've got Lamar Jackson out. Cincinnati's a wreck as well. So some of the contenders in the AFC just really aren't up to par with the Buffalo Bills right now. And they've even had the advantage of scheduling. This is their 4th home game in 5 weeks, and their 1 road game was at the Meadowlands. So, they could drive to games and not have to spend too much time going anywhere. But they are the team to beat right now, obviously in the AFC East, and I would say also in the AFC. It's setting up for Josh Allen to make his first appearance in a Super Bowl. But as you said, don't forget the Kansas City Chiefs. And the thing too, John, this would be the first time in this run that Buffalo's dominated division that they would be the number 1 seed. So in theory, AFC Championship game, if they're there and they're the number 1 seed, they're home, which they haven't been able to be. They played at Kansas City last year. They've had to play at Kansas City before. So that's a big, big deal for them, especially knowing what the weather would be like in Buffalo in late January.
Yeah, although as we've seen with the Green Bay Packers in recent years, it's not as much of an advantage as it used to be. I mean, again,
True.
You can make the argument that those players practice in it, they live in it, they play in it, but as we've seen, like I said, with the Packers, Lambeau has not been that much of an advantage from that time of year. And I think that's a valid point. I think for Buffalo, they need home field, right? If they're going to get to a Super Bowl, you want the road to a Super Bowl, the road to San Francisco, to go through Highmark Stadium. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, it is the final season that they'll be playing in Highmark Stadium. They'll be moving into their new stadium next year. All right, let's take a look at this matchup, because I think it's intriguing on so many levels. You can make the argument that this is the most important Patriots game in the last 3 years. Certainly, as I said earlier, it is a litmus test game for this organization. If you're Mike Vrabel, if you're the Patriots, you want to see, all right, how do we stack up in the AFC? Are we good enough to be a playoff team in the AFC? It's been kind of a tale of 2 seasons so far for the Patriots, where when you look at them, they're 2-2, but they could very easily be 3-1, maybe even 4-0. They played well enough at times to beat the Raiders. And if you don't turn the ball over 5 times a couple of weeks ago against Pittsburgh, they should have beaten them. They outgained them by a substantial amount, had the time of possession advantage. At the very least, they should be 3-1. Now, last year, they went up there under Gerard Mayo and played these same Buffalo Bills really tough, losing by 3 points. I think that tonight's game can play out the same way. I think on paper, this Patriots team is a tough matchup for Buffalo. Of course, I say that during the week, and people jump all over me. What are you talking about? They're not going to go out there and beat them. That's insane. You're just being a homer. I'm not saying they're going to beat them. But this idea that they can't compete with the Bills, I think is insane. I think that the one thing we should know about the NFL, and we've seen this for years now, John, is that unlike the other 3 professional sports leagues, the NFL is a week-to-week league. Football is a week-to-week sport. You can play like absolute dog crap in 1 week and then come out the next week, play really well, and beat somebody and upset them. That's the nature of the game in itself. But I also think that's the nature of the NFL. The Patriots certainly are good enough on paper, at least in my opinion, to go up there and win.
I agree with you, John. In fact, I'll go as far as saying I think they are going to win tonight. I know they're an 8.5-point underdog. If you put $100 on them, you'd win 350 on the money line. And I said it during the week, and people thought I was crazier than you. You're saying it's going to be a close game. I'm saying they're going to win. They match up so well against this team on multiple fronts. First of all, Josh Allen has struggled against the Patriots the last 2 years in Buffalo. If you look at 2023, Buffalo won the game 27-21. Last year, they won 24-21. The Patriots had a 14-0 lead early. Turnovers killed them that particular day in Buffalo. In those 2 games, Josh Allen is 31 of 59 throwing the football, 53% completion percentage, which is god-awful, 323 yards, which is 5.5 yards per attempt, which is poor, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, 60.2 passer rating. I mean, if a quarterback plays at that level for 5-6 weeks, he's getting benched. Obviously, Josh Allen's not getting benched, but those numbers are bad, and the Patriots defense had something to do with that. Now, he's obviously effective as a running quarterback as well. 17 carries, 74 yards in those 2 games, a 4.5-yard average, 2 touchdowns. But even those numbers aren't extraordinary. 4.5 yards of carries, good, not great for a quarterback of that ilk who generally can get 7-8 yards per carry. So they've done a really good job against Josh Allen. And those were 2 4-13 teams. This Patriots defense has more talent than last year's defense or the year before's defense. So I think they match up pretty well against Josh Allen, and they can contain him at this point and maybe keep him in the pocket, make him a pocket passer, and make it difficult for him.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be the key, right? When you play this Buffalo team, the conundrum that you face from a defensive standpoint is how do you defend Josh Allen? How do you defend their running game? And I've thought about this all week. And for me, if I'm coordinating against, if I'm Zach Kerr in this game and I'm game planning this Buffalo offense and I'm coordinating against this Buffalo offense, I play a lot of man coverage. I play a lot of matchup zone. I try to blend a little bit. You're not going to fool Josh Allen by giving him a lot of different looks in the secondary. I would blend my coverages a little bit, and I would move because I don't care who the quarterback is and I don't care how long they play. You can bait quarterbacks into bad plays. But I think it's really about the core tonight. You've got to keep Allen in the pocket, and you've got to find a way to be gap sound and get into your run fits against James Cook. I would play a bunch of man coverage. Obviously, a lot of it will depend on down and distance and situation, but I would play a bunch of man coverage in this game on the outside. I really would. I don't think that this receiving core, it doesn't scare me on paper. Shakir's a nice player. Keon Coleman is a nice player. But this is a receiving core where I think the Patriots can match up in the secondary. I think Carlton Davis can match up with Coleman if you wanted to play that game. I think Gonzalez can match up with Shakir. My biggest concern in the passing game against them is their tight ends. I think that Knox and Kincaid can create some matchups for them. But the game to me is going to be one up front and in the core. And what I mean in the core is in the box. That's where I think the game is going to be won tonight. You've got to keep Allen in the pocket. And he's going to get his. You're not going to shut down Josh Allen. He's too good a player. He's going to get his. You want to limit the damage he can do, but you want to stop James Cook. Get them in the second and long. Get them in the third and long. Get them in that obvious passing situation. Because I think it's going to difference in terms of how you defend this team. Because listen, I don't care what anybody says. If you get a defense, or I'm sorry, if you get an offense in the second and long, third and long, that limits what you can do. That limits what you can do in terms of your plan, what's in your playbook. Now you have to throw. Now you have to push the ball down the field, which means the quarterback has to hold the ball longer. So that to me is a big part of it. Now, as far as blitzing him is concerned, you got to be careful how you blitz him. You got to have a sugar rush plan. You got to your edge guys have to slow play their pass rush tonight. They can't just get up the field and bend. They're going to have to be cognizant of the fact that he could get out the front door or the back door and extend plays, and now he compromises your secondary. So there are a lot of facets to defending a guy like Allen, but I think for me, the focal point is limiting his effectiveness and stopping Jimmy Cook.
Obviously,
And yes,
the
I called
rush
him Jimmy
lane.
Cook like as if
Jimmy,
he's my
well,
friend.
he's your friend. Yeah, Jimmy. JC,
Yeah,
if you
we
want
go
to,
way
that
back,
would work
me and
well.
Jimmy Cook.
Way back. Way back. Obviously, a place where Aaron Judge isn't hitting the baseball way back. I just wanted to throw that in to, irritate you a little bit on this Sunday morning. But
Well, and whatever. Hey, listen, I was
what's that?
actually more irritated the other night because in
Well,
my
you're
heart
still a
of
Red
hearts, I'm
Sox
still a
guy.
Red Sox.
I know.
At the end of the
But,
day,
what
wouldn't be
do
the
I know? I
worst thing
think
in the world to see them lose this series.
I,
Yankee fans need a reality check.
Well, I know he's your man crush, so you want to see him do well in the postseason.
I
But
do.
I'm the guy who picked the San Diego Padres to win the World Series, so I should probably just shut up and move on to talking about this football game tonight. But rush lane integrity is important, correct? I mean, so that you're not giving him gaps that he can fly through. The thing about Josh Allen as a runner, when it's 3rd and 6, he escapes, gets a 3rd and 8, trucks the linebacker, whatever, especially at home. Those feel like 3 first downs because the crowd goes absolutely nuts. His teammates go crazy. The sideline's going crazy. It feels more than just a pickup of first down. It almost feels like a thunderous dunk in the NBA at home or a Steph Curry 3 that breaks someone's back when Golden State's at home. There's more of an emotional context to that. And those are the plays you want to try to avoid, limit him to. He's going to have 1 or 2 of those tonight. You don't want to have the 5 or 6 of those where all of a sudden it's a Josh Allen drive and he's just leading the team down on his own with a little bit of help from his friends. So that's the key, is keeping him in the pocket. You remember back about 11 years ago when the Packers played the Patriots, and Bill Belichick was so adamant about do not rush past the quarterback because you've got to keep him inside the pocket. Now, that was prime Aaron Rodgers, who never really ran like Josh Allen, but could throw on the run better than any quarterback we've ever seen. So that was Belichick's approach that night. Should be a similar approach tonight to keep him in the pocket where he still can do a lot of damage. He's that good. But it seems like when he gets those big runs on 3rd and 6 and kind of flips the game is when he gets everybody excited, his teammates and fans alike.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I think the other thing that's important to point out here is I don't think Buffalo has particularly played well at times so far this season. I mean, they were in a dogfight last week with the Saints. That was a 31-19 game, but that score is a little deceiving. That game was much tighter than that for the majority of that game. Even that Miami game on Thursday night a couple of weeks ago, a game they very easily could have lost if Seiler doesn't run into the punter, if Tua doesn't throw that stupid-ass interception. I don't know what the hell he was looking at there. If those 2 plays don't happen, and really it was those 2 plays that turned that game, Buffalo potentially could have lost that game as well. They're a hard team to figure out for me, John, in a lot of ways because Allen is so good that you put yourself in a position that against them because he's just so good and he has shown the ability, that rare trait where he can take a game over. But when I look at this team, and we talked about this to start the show, Super Bowl contenders and big picture view, when I look at this team, I just see some holes there, man. I don't get the sense when you look at this team. I'm not overly confident that this team they're a legitimate Super Bowl contender. Don't get me wrong. But I wouldn't I wouldn't call them a lock. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like that there's still some holes here, and the problem with the NFL is, unlike baseball, you can't plug your holes at the trade deadline. NFL trades are very rare, and especially big ones in season. Your bigger NFL trades typically happen in the off season. So I still think that this team has some flaws. I have questions as to whether or not this team is good enough to win it all. They might be good enough to get there, but I'm not sure they're good enough to win it all. I still think that they have a couple of holes that they didn't address. Obviously, they made it a focal point to keep a lot of their guys this offseason. But do you see what I see here? I mean, I think Allen and Cook are terrific. I think that they're a little thin at wide receiver. The offensive line is good, not great. They're good. I think that they're a little overhyped. But then even when you look at them on defense, front seven's really good. They can get after the passer, but that secondary has some questions as well.
If I'm a Buffalo Bills fan, I'd be concerned at their inability to stop the run. In 4 games this year, they've given up 657 yards on 106 carries. That's 6 yards per carry. And it's not just Baltimore that gashed them for 238 yards in week 1 that's been effective running the football against the Buffalo Bills. The Jets were out of the game pretty early, and they still had 100 yards on 21 carries. Miami ran the ball effectively against them in week 3. And New Orleans last week, John, 34 carries, 189 yards. I mean, I don't think we're confusing the 2025 New Orleans Saints with the 1993 Dallas Cowboys. They gashed Buffalo's front and were very, very effective running the football. If the Patriots can run the football effectively, which they did in the first half last week against Carolina, which they did against Miami 2 weeks before that, they're going to be in pretty good shape to control the clock, keep Josh Allen off the field, on the bench, and set up your entire offensive playbook because you're able to get Drake May into 3rd and 2 or 2nd and 5, those types of downs, which he can flourish in. I think Buffalo has a fatal flaw stopping the run. Now, when sometimes you see a defense that's really good against the pass, bad against the run, well, you think they're not a really good team because the other team is just running against them. Well, Buffalo's always up, and people still run against them. That doesn't make sense. They should have like a poor pass defense because they're always up, and teams might get a lot of those garbage yards that you see, in the final half of the fourth quarter of an NFL game. But I would be very concerned if I'm a Buffalo fan as far as the Bills trying to stop the run. That to me is the key tonight. If the Patriots can run the ball, set up good 2nd and 3rd down situations with Drake May, I think they can control the ball, win the time of possession, and make sure, obviously, turnovers being the key. But Buffalo has a fatal flaw stopping the run. They are horrible at it. I believe 31st in the league, which is odd for a team that's 4-0.
It is. It is odd. And I think certainly the Patriots are set up to run the football, right? And of course, the big key with them is going to be taking care of the football. But with Stevenson, Henderson, Gibson, you have 3 backs that at any moment in the game, if they're in the game, they can bust a big run, and they can not only bust a big run, but they could be consistently running the football and churning out yards. And I think when you look at a defense that gives up 6 yards a carry, I mean, you're licking your chops if you're Josh McDaniels, because now that really allows you to get into, as you mentioned, those manageable downs. You can get in a 2nd and medium, 2nd and short, 3rd and medium, 3rd and short. I mean, you have a million plays in your offense for those situations. It's those 2nd and 15, 2nd and 20 plus, or 3rd and 15, 3rd and 20 plus that now you become more predictable in terms of what you do. But if they can establish their ground game early and they can set the tone with their running game, that's going to be huge. The other thing that I think is going to be a factor in this game, and we worry about this from the Patriots side of things with Josh Allen, if I'm Buffalo, you also have to worry about Drake May and his ability to run. And when you look at the way Drake May runs, in many ways, I think he's a more difficult runner to contain than Josh Allen is, because Josh Allen is most effective on designed runs. It's not to say he's not effective when things break down and he can put it down. Obviously, he's a big boy. He can handle himself well in space one-on-one against a defender. But what makes May difficult to defend when things break down is he's a perimeter runner that has really good speed, and he can pick up yards in a hurry. And so, as good as Buffalo's pass rush is, they're going to have to be cognizant of that. They're going to have to make sure, like the Patriots, that they sugar rush, they hem him in, they keep him in the pocket, they make him have to work his progression. That's what they're going to have to do here, because if not, May has shown an ability, even when he's in the pocket, May has shown an ability to consistently get through a rush lane, get up the field, pick up 7, 8, 9 yards, slide, and get into a second and short or a first down. So I think that that's going to be just as important for Buffalo. But if I'm the Patriots early on in this game, even if you fall behind, I really make it a point of emphasis to run the football, stay patient with the running game. As you know, through the years, John, you know I'm a big Josh McDaniels fan.
Mm-hmm.
But one of my criticisms of Josh has always been he does have a tendency every now and then to abandon the run. You've got to stick with it, because if you don't, even if you fall behind 10-0, hell, I'd say even if you fall behind 14-0, stick with it, give it a chance, because early on in this game, it's probably going to be your best way to get back into this game. And I think that if they can do that, they'll be fine. And again, look, you're not going to have to play keep away. This is a really good Buffalo offense. And obviously, you don't want to give Josh Allen extra possessions. But as long as you take care of the football and you play fundamentally sound, he's not going to get those extra possessions. And so I think it's vitally important for them to run the football tonight, set up their play action, set up their drop back and screen game, and go from there. I think if they have that ground game effectiveness tonight, they'll give themselves a pretty good shot at winning this football game. Again, you're a lot more confident about them winning this game than I am. I think that they can be competitive in this game, but I certainly think that if they can consistently run the football and set a physical tone, I don't care what level of football it is, if you set a physical tone up front, you win. If they can do that, they'll be in pretty good shape tonight.
One of the most amazing stats going into this game, and you know I love throwing stats around because sometimes what's passed is prologue. There I am quoting Shakespeare, which, you know, I'm very proud of that. But
yes, you're
Buffalo, Shakespeare was cool, though, wasn't he? Or if he even existed, I don't know. Yeah. He was all right. He's not at the level.
I will say this. You're talking to a guy who doesn't think Shakespeare and the Beatles might be the two most overrated contributors to society in the history of society.
And Bruce Springsteen too, right?
And Bruce Springsteen.
Okay.
I think Bruce Springsteen sucks. That's well documented.
Okay, but I'm paying homage to U2 and Bono today with my shades. So,
yes.
You know, hopefully it will not be a bloody Sunday up in Buffalo for the Patriots. As far as the Patriots go in terms of the turnover battle, Buffalo's now gone 26 straight games without losing the turnover battle. That's amazing. Now, that speaks highly of Josh Allen, who has cleaned up his game incredibly since early in his career. That's why you hope that Drake May is a reasonable facsimile of Josh Allen, right? You know, the big athletic quarterback who's got a cannon for an arm, can also run, tough, physical, all that stuff. Josh Allen was a turnover machine early in his career. Now he takes care of the football at the highest level. So 26 straight games, they have not lost the turnover battle. If you could just be net neutral tonight against them, to me, that's a win. I've done a 180 on Drake May the last 3 weeks, to be honest with you. I was critical of him last year, early in the season. I think the last 3 weeks, he's 1 or 2 plays away from being nearly perfect. I thought he was outstanding against Miami, outstanding against Carolina. For the most part, against Pittsburgh, I think he did a really good job. He had the turnovers. Now, don't forget that interception in the end zone, when he was a little too flat on the throw, he needed to have a little more air under it. He had hit his head on the turf the play before that. We had concussion issues. I don't know if he had a concussion at that point, but I'm sure, you know, he wasn't 100% when he threw that interception. My biggest concern with Drake May is not necessarily the interceptions. He's a gunslinger. Maybe you have to coach that out of him. It's fumbles in the pocket. He's a big, strong kid. He's got to hold on to the football when he gets sacked, because those fumbles in the pocket, to me, are worse than interceptions. Not all interceptions are alike, right? I mean, you might throw a Hail Mary at the end of the second quarter. Doesn't really mean much. It's intercepted down near the goal line. But you fumble at your own 25, short field for the offense. Good luck stopping an offense like Buffalo when they only have to travel 25 yards. That's the one area I'd like to see him clean up a lot. But I feel right now you can go into a game and you feel you have a quarterback that at least can compete with the other team's quarterback. I never felt that way with Mac Jones. I feel that way now with Drake May.
Yeah, well, I don't know. The reincarnation of Mac Jones has been pretty impressive, man, and it speaks to that
I
system,
know.
and it
Yeah.
speaks to Kyle Shanahan, but I think it speaks more to the system. I think that system is so quarterback friendly that if you can master a lot of the nuances of it and the various movements and the formations, uh, anybody can be an effective quarterback in that offense. And that's not a knock on Mac Jones. But let's not forget, and you and I talked about this the other day in a conversation where in 2021, Kyle Shanahan really liked Mac Jones and contemplated taking him with a top 5 pick. And they ultimately settled on Trey Lance. But you can see why he liked him. I mean, systemically, he's a really good fit. And a lot of Mac's strengths, his processing, his ability to get the ball out quick, his accuracy, his vertical arm talent inside the 30. I think all of that stuff is a perfect fit for that offense. But Mac's not here anymore. We don't need to talk about him. Now, all that being said, I agree with you. Obviously, I had Drake May as my number 1 quarterback in that class. I thought him and Jaden Daniels were neck and neck. I thought the only real advantage that Daniels had was that he was more experienced and he was going to be ready to play sooner. He had 55 career college starts to May's 26. But I really love what I've seen out of Drake May this year, sans the turnovers. The turnovers continue to be a problem. They were a problem last year. It was really the only blemish that he had last year when he played was he didn't take care of the football. You liked everything else you saw from him. And I kind of feel that this year, statistically, when you look at him, he's been a top 10 quarterback in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly from an ability standpoint, he has top 10 ability. I think to your point, it's the interceptions and it's the fumbles in the pocket. If he cleans that up, yes, the kid has the ability to be a top 10 quarterback in this league. There's no doubt about it. I still think he needs to put on another 5 to 10 pounds. But I think if he takes better care of the football, he is an unbelievable ceiling, in my opinion. And then what it's going to really come down to is what do the Patriots put around him to maximize him? Now, the Josh Allen comparison is lazy to me. It's always been lazy. He's not Josh Allen. He's not as big. He doesn't have the arm talent that Allen has. He has plus arm talent, don't get me wrong. But Justin Herbert is a more favorable comp. He's a more athletic version of Justin Herbert. He's also not as big as Herbert either. But he's a more athletic version of Herbert. But I do think that the Josh Allen comps are just lazy to me. I just think they're lazy. I hate that narrative. It's bothered me for a while. And I really wish people would stop doing it because he's a different player.
Yeah, without question. I mean, I think the Justin Herbert comparison is fair. Herbert's 6'6", 240. I mean, he's a monster. He's got a cannon for an arm. He can move. I think Drake May moves a little bit better. Maybe another comparison, and of course, if you say this, people are going to flip out and say, no way. There's no way we want him to be this guy. But the last year plus, Sam Darnold's been a pretty good quarterback. I mean, he was outstanding with the Minnesota Vikings last year, and he's picked up where he left off with the Seattle Seahawks this year. If he's in that type of group, and I think he can be better than that. I think he's a more natural passer than Sam Darnold. But, these quarterbacks that have excelled, and he certainly has the physical talent to be better than Sam Darnold, close to being Justin Herbert. Josh Allen is a freak. I mean, it's tough to really compare anyone to him. I mean, I throw around the comparison of John Elway, who I think is the greatest quarterback ever. So maybe Drake May gets to Justin Herbert or better.
They're totally. I see why you say Elway, but Elway was 6'2". I mean, he wasn't 6'2" and change.
He was a little bigger, but
Elway was nowhere near as big as him.
Well, also he was playing 40 years ago, so everybody else on the field was a little bit smaller. But the arm talent was similar. It was more accurate than Josh Allen even from the get-go. But the physical toughness, where I think you could hit Josh Allen with a 2x4 with his helmet off, and he'd probably just get up, laugh at you, and use it as a toothpick. I mean, he's just indestructible. He's Superman. But if Drake May's Justin Herbert, what the heck's wrong with that? Hopefully he'd be better than Justin Herbert in the playoffs, who's quite frankly sucked in his 2 playoff appearances. But I think Drake May, without question, has a chance to be a top 10 quarterback. Love the way he throws. It's a very effortless release he has. And you are in there a lot more than I am. You swear that his teammates love him. And I hear David Andrews in the radio all the time praising him, and he played with him last year. Andrews didn't play a lot last year, but he's always praising Drake May, and that coming from that guy, that's good enough for me.
Yeah. No, I mean, listen, the talent is undeniable. It's there. And I think what it comes down to is the developmental piece and taking care of the ball, making smart plays, making good decisions, taking care of himself.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other thing. It's nice to see him at least sliding and not trying to pick up that extra yard or two and putting himself in harm's way. I think all of those things are important, John. I think if he can figure that part of the game out, how to protect himself, and this is where I'm going to sound like a homer when I say this, but this is where I wish Tom Brady was involved with the Patriots somehow. Because, and I'm sure Brady would talk to him. I don't think Brady would shun him if he reached out. But Brady, to me, is the greatest quarterback of all time. The two best quarterbacks of all time, in my opinion, or at the very least in my lifetime, that were really good at protecting themselves in the pocket were Tom Brady and Drew Brees. And I think I obviously he has a ton of access to Brady film. I would watch those two guys. I would watch the way they protected themselves in the pocket. They were pocket passers. They were not guys who would put it down, scramble, and pick up 8 to 10 yards and get you that first down or get you into a manageable down. They won from the pocket. And if he can learn how to protect himself in the pocket like they did, and I'm sure Josh McDaniels is referencing Tom Brady a lot when it comes to teaching him that part of playing the game at his position. If he can learn how to do that, that's going to be huge for him because that's the other part of this. It's not just the turnovers. He's got to learn how to protect himself as well, especially against teams like tonight where that's a Buffalo pass rush that can get to you. They don't do a lot up front. They don't blitz a ton. They do a lot of TE stuff and they move around a lot. But by and large, they try to win one-on-one. And if this offensive line can hold up tonight and he can do a good job of protecting himself in the pocket, that again will go a long way in helping them win this game.
Yeah, but you mentioned Drew Brees. He was 5'11", maybe 6 feet tall, but he was so good in the pocket, and he always had this deep drop in the pocket to give him a little extra room to maneuver around. And obviously, he will be inducted into the Hall of Fame next August. I think it's a formality, but yeah, absolutely. That's so important for a quarterback to protect himself. So he's out there every week. That's the availability is such a key thing. And again, these are things that quarterbacks work on. They tweak. They try to get better at it. And yeah, I mean, Tom Brady's the best at that. We both agree he's the greatest quarterback of all time, but it's all those little things. Tom Brady was the best at the quarterback sneak. Like this little thing that some quarterbacks just can't quite do. He did it better than anyone. It wasn't like he was physically better than anybody. He just figured out the right way to do it. So yeah, the little fine tuning of Drake May is going to be interesting because, as we both agree, the physical talent is without question top 10.
Of course, the other big storyline going into this game is the return of Stephon Diggs. He's back in Buffalo. Diggs talked about this after last week's game about how he was looking forward to it. I had asked him about where he thought he was in terms of his comfort level in the Patriots offense. He said a 5 out of 10. He clarified that statement during the week, saying that it's more like 9 out of 10, that he was being facetious. Josh McDaniels was asked about it. He said 9 out of 10. I don't know why they felt the need to correct themselves. I mean, to me, his tenure in New England is 4 games in. I mean, he's not at a 9 out of 10. No player is. There's still guys that are getting comfortable with this offense and playing in it and how they fit in it. So, whatever. To each their own. But I think at the end of the day, regardless, he had his best game as a Patriot last week. 6 catches, over 100 yards. He's going to be a big part of this plan tonight. They're going to need him to step up. Obviously, he's going to need to keep his emotions in check. But if the Patriots are going to win tonight, Stephon Diggs is going to play a big part in that.
Great question you asked because it got a lot of play throughout the week. And I think the way he answered it at the time is probably what he really feels. He's trying to adjust to a new offense. This isn't the easiest offense to learn. And again, he's played 4 regular season games. He wasn't here that much in the offseason. Training camp, he wasn't really in communication with the media. But yeah, if he's a 6 out of 10 2 weeks from now and then continues to grow from there, I mean, I get the sense with Stephon Diggs is that he's a perfectionist. He's a phenomenal route runner. I mean, he's a true wide receiver. He's not just a jump ball guy or a guy who just blows by people. He runs precise routes, good hands. It seems to really have good communication with Drake May at this point. So yeah, I'm sure he's hard on himself, and the first answer was the right one. To come out and say nine of 10 is a bit much, because what quarterback or what wide receiver in the NFL feels like a 9 out of 10 at this point? Probably like Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, because they've been in those systems for 8 years. So they obviously have a grasp of it. This is Drake May's second year, another new offense he's learning, and a new offense that Stephon Diggs is learning. So yeah, I think that's a good sign, right? Because that means you're going to grow, and get better.
Yeah. Well, and I think look, he's not a 9 out of 10 right now. He's still, to your point, he's learning, he's growing. He needs to have a big game tonight. They do need to get everything they have to a number one receiver. They really, outside of the first couple weeks, Kayshon Boutte has been relatively quiet. They haven't really been able to get Douglas going. Matt Collins, I think he's another guy, former Buffalo Bill, played there last year. He's another guy that I think tonight needs to have a big game for them. So if they can get those two guys going, get the backs involved out of the backfield in the passing game, Hunter Henry's been really good for them this season. Hooper, he's another guy that can make a big catch in a big situation. Get those two tight ends involved when you're in 12 personnel, maybe even get in a little bit of 13 personnel with Jack Westover. I think they have a bunch of pieces. I think that on paper, they probably have a better skill group than Buffalo. I mean that. Cook is better than any of the Patriots running backs. Obviously, Allen has the advantage at quarterback. But when you look at the rest of this skill group, the Patriots might have an advantage here. And again, I know people are going to sit there and say, what are you talking about? They're 4-0. Shut the F up. You're blowhard. You know what I mean? Look at it objectively on paper. This isn't a Patriots media member glazing the Patriots, okay? This is reality. Do the head-to-head thing on paper and come back to me. But again, all that being said, they're going to need to step up. May's going to need to play well. We know that. I think the Patriots, as we said earlier, are going to make a concerted effort to run the football and establish that running game. But Stephon Diggs, Matt Collins, former Buffalo Bills, there's going to be some added motivation there. Those guys are going to need to play really well for them tonight in order for them to go up there and pull off the upset. Because let's face it, Buffalo right now looks like the best team in the AFC. If they win this game tonight, it would be an upset. And it would be, like I said, not only a litmus test for them, but if they win this game, now the conversation pivots around here. Now we'd have to start talking about them as being a playoff team, not even a potential playoff team. If you can go into Buffalo and win, you should be a playoff team.
Yeah, because the schedule gets softer. They go to New Orleans next week. And New Orleans did battle Buffalo pretty well last week, but you would think the Patriots can go to New Orleans can win. Yeah, I mean, you could sweep that, especially Cleveland is here. When Cleveland's at home, they're a completely different team. It seems like the Browns have the best defense in football when they're playing at home. On the road, they give up 35 points a game. I have no clue what that's about. They sound like the Colorado Rockies. But you look at the Buffalo Bills, you're going to have to score points to beat them, right? 14 of their last 17 games, they've scored 30 or more points. They've averaged 34 points per game during that stretch. Now, they've only scored under 30 points 3 times. The lowest amount of points they've scored over the last year plus is 24 against the Patriots in December. That was a real game. This was not the game that Buffalo came in and laid down. No, I don't even count that one. That's like a lay down. So, but the Patriots held Buffalo to 24 points last year in Buffalo, and there were turnovers involved that led to points. So take care of the football. You can kind of limit that Buffalo team. But in the end, you're going to need to score points. You can run the football as much as you can, but you still need some chunk plays along the way, right, John? I mean, because it is so tough to ask a team to go on a 14-play drive to go 72 yards. I mean, it's not easy to do because there's a penalty involved. There could be a turnover. Obviously, there's a mishap somewhere. A sack occurs, and now you're facing 3rd and 14. So it's tough to go down the field in increments of 4 or 5 yards. It's ideal. It doesn't always happen. As Hank Stram said,
it doesn't matter what level of football it is.
Right.
To your point, you have to have big plays. It's hard to drive the ball on every possession. You need to have big plays throughout the course of a game.
I learned that big word matriculate from Hank Stram. But now you do need to have some chunk plays to pick up 14, 15 yards. Keep the defense on its heels, so now you can continue to do what you want to do on offense. But you're going to have to score points to win this game because Buffalo's been scoring 34 points a game for the last 17 games. And so you're going to have to match that to get the victory.
Yeah, that kind of illustrates maybe my point that their skill group isn't as good. That stat kind of negates my point about their skill group, but I still think on the perimeter, the Patriots, if nothing else, are pretty even with them. They match up with them there. What are three keys to the game for you today, John? What are three things that are a must in order for the Patriots to win this football game?
Run the football effectively, which every team that's faced Buffalo this year has been able to do. Even the Jets, in a blowout loss, 21 carries, 100 yards. You could run against this team. It appears that Ed Oliver is questionable for tonight's game. That's a big factor. Got to run the football. Obviously, if you could be a net neutral in turnovers, that's a win because Buffalo never loses a turnover battle. And on defense, you have to limit the big plays. And the big plays don't necessarily have to be 27-yard gains. I talk about those Josh Allen runs on 3rd and 6 when he gains 8 and trucks the linebacker and the crowd goes nuts and the teammates of Josh Allen go crazy on the sideline, on the field. Those to me are like super plays that you have to limit because it kind of can slow the game down a little bit. And now you get into the fourth quarter and you have a chance at that point to beat the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, I agree with you. And we haven't really talked about the defense enough, but the defense is going to need to make key stops, especially in the fourth quarter. If it's one of those games like it was last year where it's a 3 to 7 point game on either side, defense and defensive stops in the fourth quarter usually are the difference, and that's what leads to teams winning games. They're going to need to make some key stops in the fourth quarter. And again, I like the way they match up on the perimeter. Question is, can you keep Allen in the pocket? Can you throw him off his spot? I think they're going to need to be creative with their TE pressure up front. They're going to need to move a lot. They're going to need to find ways to get guys freed up. Maybe bring an occasional linebacker from depth every now and then on a delayed pressure or a bog and let them hit the open gap. I think they're going to need to do things like that. But again, as I said earlier, you're not going to stop Allen. You just hope to slow him down. It's really about James Cook controlling the line of scrimmage and limiting his effectiveness. Because if you don't, that Buffalo offense has been able to score 30 plus in the last year and a half because they get Cook going and he balances out their passing game. And then they become really tough to stop. I think if you can control the line of scrimmage, limit Allen's effectiveness, stop Cook, you can win this football game. Way easier said than done, though. I think ultimately this game's going to end up a shootout. I think I could see this being a 34-31 kind of game.
My official score, 27-24 Patriots. I think they shocked the world tonight. I think they matched up really well against the Buffalo Bills. And you know I am not a Patriots
By the
fan.
way, not to cut you off, are they really going to shock the world? Are there people tonight? Are there going to be people tonight that are going to be sitting there at a cafe in Milan or sitting in their home in Asia going, oh my goodness, I can't believe the Patriots beat the Buffalo Bills.
Maybe they'll shock the United States. I don't know about Milan or anywhere else.
Maybe we should tweak that expression. It should be they'll shock America tonight.
That's right.
Because I'm pretty sure like my Greek relatives in Greece aren't sitting there going, can you believe the Patriots beat the Bills? Who would have thought that? They're not going to say that, I promise you.
By the way, when does the NFL go to Athens?
Well, the Chargers are the official team of Greece, thanks to the Spanos family.
Okay.
Eventually, you know I'm a hater of the international games. We've got one going on right now between the Browns and the Vikings. I can't stand the international games. It's yet another example of the NFL now starting to turn into the NBA, which I loathe. It's another example of why this league is stretching itself out way too thin. They don't need to be in Europe. They definitely don't need to be in Brazil. They don't need to be in Mexico. It's idiotic. I can live with playing a game every year in Toronto. That's fine. That I don't have an issue with that. But expanding the international schedule to me is it's yet another example of this league's greed, their gluttony. And don't sell me on this bullshit that you're doing it to bring the game to other people around the world. Spare me with that nonsense. It's another way to make more money. No one believes you. No one's ever going to believe you. Goodell's a buffoon. Like, let's just stop with this bullshit. I'm sick of these stupid international games.
Yeah, I can't wait till flag football goes to Saudi Arabia. I'm really excited about that. I just can't hold my excitement.
A couple of comments. A friend of Joe's here at New England Football Journal checks in. Will this Pats defense get shredded, or can Davis and Gonzalez lock down the Bills' wide receivers and tight ends? I don't know if I'd say lock down, but I think that they can have some success against them.
Yeah, I think they can. Obviously, again, can you have a pass rush on Josh Allen? And this is something I'm going to ask you as a coach. How difficult is it to really rush him as a passer when you have it in the back of your mind or in the front of your mind that if you are not disciplined, that guy's going out and getting 8, 10 yards? I mean, it's not like a jailbreak when you get a quarterback that can't move so that, if you miss, you can kind of come back and get him again. How difficult is it to rush him as a passer because you have to be so disciplined?
That's what it comes down to. It's difficult in that pass rushers innately want to win on the snap. They want to get up the field. They want to reset the line of scrimmage. That's what you do. It's hard when you pass rush against a quarterback who's mobile because now, yes, you still want to win with your first step. You still want to reset the line of scrimmage. But if you do win that rep, now it becomes a matter of you've got to keep that quarterback on your inside hip and you got to slow play it to him. You can't just get up the field and take a beeline for him because if he sees you and a guy like Allen is good enough to sidestep an edge player coming at him and get out the front door, now that creates problems because now, especially if you're in man coverage, if your secondary's gone and not in the picture, I mean, he's going to pick up chunk runs before they rally to the ball and make a tackle. So pass rush integrity is going to be vitally important tonight, vitally important for both teams. Because if you don't, if you're not sound in your pass rush technique tonight and you don't sugar rush it and slow play it, these guys are going to break the pocket and they're going to make big plays as runners, and that's going to be problematic for both of these defenses. You be tripping. Must be somebody watching the show in Buffalo. I'm assuming a University of Buffalo grad. You be tripping. You be tripping. Thanks for checking in, by the way. Says 42-10 Bills. Pat's going to get crushed. I love it. I love when the opposing team joins a show like this. It's awesome. I think it brings another element to it. Again, you be tripping. Thanks for checking in, brother. And you may be right, man. You may be right. Here we are saying we think they're going to play them tough. We think this is going to be a close game. And all of a sudden, the moment's too big for Drake May. The moment is too big for the Patriots, and they get mucked.
Again, we both agreed that the NFL is a week-to-week league, right? Last week, New Orleans played Buffalo really tough. If not for a screw-up inside the 5-yard line when they decided to run the Philly special, that would have been an even closer game. I mean, New Orleans was going up and down the field against the Bills. Again, 189 yards on 34 carries. That's what I'm kind of leaning on. And if Ed Oliver doesn't play, the Patriots should be able to run the football. Would I be surprised if Buffalo wins? Hell no. But I'm calling for the victory because I think the Patriots match up really well against them. And again, Buffalo is right now the favorite to represent the AFC, but I don't look at them as some sort of unbeatable team or a complete team. The defense is meh. The skill set is okay. Obviously, the running game is tremendous with Josh Allen and Cook, but I don't see this team that has all of the pieces. I still think if the A game goes up against the A game of the Philadelphia Eagles, I'll bet the Philadelphia Eagles. I think they're just better.
Yeah, you be tripping. I think you be tripping if you think this is going to be the final score because, look, we've seen it the last 2 years, and we've seen it in recent years. Even if you go back to the COVID season, if Cam Newton doesn't fumble, they're driving to win the game. They have played well up there in recent years. Mm-hmm. They have. So this idea, I'd be more inclined to think that Buffalo could come here and beat them by 2 scores plus than there. The Patriots, for whatever reason, the environment, they rise to the occasion. They play well up there. They have at least in the last few years. I would be surprised if this was the final score or if they got blown out. If they get blown out tonight, it's because they played as bad as they did against Pittsburgh in terms of taking care of the ball. And unlike Pittsburgh, who's going to struggle offensively all year, unlike Pittsburgh, Buffalo's good enough to capitalize on those turnovers, and they ran them out of town. But I don't see that happening. I think it's going to be a much closer game than that. I do think ultimately Buffalo wins. I do disagree with my partner here. I think Buffalo ultimately wins by 3 to 7 points. I don't think they cover, but I do think they win. I am looking forward to seeing how stupid they're going to look in those dumb all-white uniforms. Why are you busting those out on the first weekend of October? Why wouldn't you play in those the first weekend of December when the weather's colder and it makes more sense? It's going to be 80 degrees there tonight, and they're going to wear their stupid all-white uniforms. It's ridiculous. It's so dumb. It's once again another reason why, as much as I love the NFL, in a lot of ways, they just don't get it. They're the masters of stupid-ass decision-making.
And overthinking things, obviously, and overreacting to
And by the
things
way,
as
those
well.
uniforms are awful. I think the Bills are going to look like dopes in those all whites. It's
They're going to look like movie clouds at this point.
They are. They're so
know?
stupid. I mean, again, this is where I don't understand why the NBA and the NFL executives decided, let's take a page out of the NBA's playbook, a league that has fallen on its face a bunch of times in recent years. They decided, you know what, let's do, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what's annoying about it. It's like the NBA has the stupidest uniforms in pro sports with their stupid City Connect garbage, or that's baseball, but their City edition, they call it.
We think that, John, but kids love them and buy them, apparently.
Well, who cares what kids want? Today's generation of kids is stupid. They're dumb. They think that their attitude is that let's just throw a bunch of colors on a jersey and today's kid will buy. Yeah, because today's kid will buy anything if they think that it looks good on them. My point is, I don't have a problem with alternate uniforms, and I'm sounding like the old man yelling at the clouds here.
I'm supposed to be the old man. I'm older than you by a dozen years.
Right, but my point is, why are we doing these? I don't mind doing a rivalry series, but stick to something that makes sense. These uniforms are dumb. I don't like the Patriot ones either. I think those look stupid too. I don't understand what you're going for there. If I'm the NFL, keep it simple, stupid. Okay, either do the throwbacks or regular uniforms. That's it, and mix and match your sets that way. But these stupid whatever. It's taking the NBA's book, and it bothers me because I think the NBA is a flawed league in a lot of ways, and I wouldn't do anything that they do.
You're not a big fan of the Patriots Oompa Loompa uniforms where they're all blue? I'm not
No.
either. I mean, those
No,
things
and
are
here's
horrible.
the other thing. Not to cut you off. If you wanted to do the rivalry uniform, then do the Bledsoe Parcells uniforms. Do the one with the giant Patriot on the shoulders. I'm okay with that. There's countless Patriot fans out there that grew up in the 90s on those uniforms that are younger than me. I'm all in on that. That's what they should have done. But to do what they did, I don't know, it's just idiotic. And like you said, it ultimately comes down to that.
Here's another reason that we've talked about the Patriots having a real good chance to win up in Buffalo tonight. The last 5 years they've gone there. You mentioned the 2020, the COVID year. If Cam Newton doesn't fumble, they probably win that game. 2021, they win during a hurricane, which was just an absurd game, but hey, they won the game. Don't forget, 2022, they went up there and gave up 2 kickoff returns for touchdowns, and they were still in the game. 2023, they lose 27-21. Last year, they lose 24-21. They don't appear to be intimidated going up there. And again, this happens within the division. You play a division team twice a year. You know a lot about them. You can prepare for them. You're familiar with what they like to do. I think the Patriots are going to go in tonight and win that game, even though I'm tripping, apparently.
Yeah, according to you be tripping. You be tripping, Sam.
I'd be tripping.
Yeah, again, I think to your point earlier, going back to your 3 keys to the game, I think if they can run the football, if they can limit the big plays, that's huge. And I think another key that you didn't mention that I'll mention is it's not only doing those 2 things, but again, you mentioned them being neutral on the turnover battle. Obviously, taking care of the ball is going to be a big part of this. But I think the other part of this that we didn't talk about enough is I think the other part of this is the offensive line. They're going to need to play really well tonight. That pass rush is really good. They can get after it. They're going to get after May. A third key for me is going to be the offensive line. How well does the offensive line play? Because I believe, and I've been a firm believer of this, like most coaches are, most people in football are, you win at the line of scrimmage, you win up front. If you can win the line of scrimmage, you give yourself a really good chance to win the game. I think they're going to be able to effectively run the football tonight. I think that they're going to give Drake May some time, but I think ultimately May's going to need to make plays both as a runner and a passer for them to win this game. It's not just going to be what he does from the pocket. It's going to also be those impact plays when things break down. If the offensive line plays well tonight, I agree with you, the Patriots win. If they're even or struggle, Buffalo wins, and they probably win by 7 to 10 points. But I'm sticking with my pick with Buffalo, but I think the offensive line is going to be the key tonight.
As a coach, and you coached offensive line, you've been a head coach, obviously. Is it easier in a loud environment to run rather than pass? Because again, I think that crowd is going to be sauced up. I mean, this fan base is
Literally.
literally sauced up. Yeah,
Literally on
breaking.
beer and buffalo wings. They're
Yeah,
literally going to be sauced.
breaking tables. It's an
Right.
8:15 kickoff. You know, they're ready to go to the Super Bowl.
I think they're a great fan base, but the whole breaking table
Absolutely.
thing, I don't understand that. Whatever,
No,
to each their own.
that doesn't seem too normal.
Yeah, it makes no
But
sense to me. I don't know why you need to go to a
there's
football game and hurt you. Right.
That's true. That's true.
Whatever.
If you're going to do that, go play for the team or whatever. At least shovel the snow in December. Then you get a ticket out of it.
Well,
But
they do.
they do. Yeah, that's what makes it such a great environment. Would it be easier to run the football when the crowd is absolutely nuts because you're kind of like dictating pace? You're in control of the situation. If you're in 3rd and 8 and that crowd is going nuts and the offensive line is not communicating and Drake May is trying to get everything set, that becomes much more difficult. Obviously, running the football becomes the best way to quiet that crowd, kind of put them to sleep, if anything. With all that alcohol they've
Yeah. No, I don't think that matters, in my
Mhm.
opinion. I think the way to keep that crowd out of the game is to stay out of long down situations,
Yep.
convert, and not give up big plays on defense. I think if you
Mhm.
do those things, I think you can keep the crowd out of it. I don't think you're going to lull the crowd to sleep by running the football. I mean, that can take them out of the game. But again, running the football is one thing. It's running the football and getting first downs. And I think
Right.
that's how you ultimately take them out of the game. But the crowd obviously is going to affect your communication. But I think the crowd becomes more of a factor if you're turning the ball over, committing penalties, getting into long down situations. That's when the crowd starts to become a factor. I think if you can limit those things, then you can take the crowd out of it. Ken checks back in. Can the Diggs factor be a big deal, as he knows his former team pretty well? It can be a factor if he plays well. I don't think. Sure, did he give them some intel this week on what they might be doing coverage-wise or how they might match up to him? I'm sure he did. But I think it's going to be more about how he plays than his intimate knowledge of the Bills' secondary and their defense. Let's put it this way: I don't think that Diggs is proficient in that Buffalo defense. He's not going to go into this game knowing their checks and their calls and. Yeah, I don't think he knows that. I think he has a good idea of how they're going to line up to him potentially and how they may match up with him. But beyond that, I don't think he's gonna impact the game with how he plays.
Yeah, this isn't Luka Doncic going back to play against the Dallas Mavericks. I mean, in basketball, you see that all the time. Someone goes back to play a team that traded them and they put up 55, 10, and 10. That happens a lot in the NBA. With this situation, you just want Stephon Diggs to be productive and be Drake May's best target in a given situation because they're going to have to throw the football at some point to win this game.
Yeah, absolutely. So your final score is 27-21, you said?
27-24.
27-24. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I'm going to go 31-24 Buffalo. I think the Patriots are going to play well. I think that they're going to acquit themselves well, but I think ultimately the cream rises. I think the interesting stat you pointed out, John, and I think it's so true, is Buffalo's ability to win the turnover battle. They take care of the ball, and I think it's hard to win in a place like that if you don't win the turnover battle. I don't see the Patriots winning the turnover battle. I see Buffalo once again winning the turnover battle. I think in many ways that's going to be the difference here. Again, I think it's going to be a really good game. I think the Patriots are going to put on a good showing. But in a lot of ways, and I think this is important for Patriot fans to understand, you can still be a playoff team and lose this game.
Mm-hmm.
Because you still got them one more time at your place, and depending on where both teams are at, will depend on how that game is played. But I do think the Patriots can still stay in playoff contention, even if they lose this game. Because, like you said, the schedule, next 3 weeks, you got New Orleans, Tennessee, Cleveland, all winnable games. And even on the back end, you still have the Jets twice. You still have Miami coming here, which I think is going to be a winnable game. The Patriots, you still have Atlanta coming here. I mean, there's no team in football that's more inconsistent and maddening than the Atlanta Falcons. They have to come here. You still have plenty of winnable games on your schedule. So, and look, I know we talk about moral victories on every single one of our shows. It's all we ever do. But if the Patriots go up there and lose 24-21 tonight, there's going to be some good you can take from that. Again, moral victories don't count, but there's positives you can pull from them. If they go up there and play well tonight, and let's say they lose by 3 or 7 points, there's going to be plenty of positives that Mike Vrabel and his coaching staff can take from that. But again, our good friend here seems to think that they're going to win the game tonight, and that if you're smart, you put $100 on them to win 350. I don't know if I have the coconuts to do that. You might. I don't. But people out there might. And if that's the case, then you should listen to my good friend here and put the money on them. All right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm sterling at making picks, so yeah.
Yeah. There you go. You heard it there from John Bono Sapachetti. He just shat on himself. So there you go. All right. Well, that'll do it for this week's episode of the Patriots Pulse Preview Show. For John Sapachetti, or John Sapachetti, I just said it Italiano, Sapachetti.
Just call me Sap. You know that.
Back with you. Yeah. We'll be back with you for next week's game. Until then, enjoy the game tonight. Peace.